good evening or good morning, depending on when you're watching this video. I'm going to do a short presentation on the beginnings of World War II. And what I've decided to do, I'm going to actually create two separate videos. And this is basically the first part of our review of World War II. And this is, honestly, it's a simple review of what we've already discussed in classes and what our assignments have already covered. So this is just another means of reviewing for you as you prepare for the exam that will be this Thursday on March 13th, first period. Don't forget. And I'm going to be using a slide provided by Mr. Brian Googe. So without further ado, let's get started. There is an old saying that says, and we know who said this, that nature is cruel. So we may be cruel too. I have the right to remove millions of an inferior race that breathes like vermin. This is Hitler. And in his mind, of course, we know who he's referring to. He's referring to the Jews. This is going to be one of the sick and maniacal things that will drive him throughout this entire nightmare of a war. Adolf Hitler, of course, is the dictator of Nazi Germany. You can see the swastika on his left arm. He is driven by two things: exterminate the Jews, that is his what we call the final solution to dealing with his, quote, Jewish problem. But also he is determined to establish the Third Reich, or the 1,000-year reign of Germany. And he has promised the German people that he's going to do that. So first of all, just a quick overview. Let's look at some immediate causes of World War II. First of all, we know in Germany, Adolf Hitler comes to power in 1933. This slide says as a fascist dictator. I hesitate to say that Hitler is fascist because he does not necessarily embrace all of the tenets of fascism, and you know that fascism, of course, is associated with Mussolini. What those two clowns do have in common, however, is that they are both addicted to violence against their enemies. Now, another cause, and I said this when we were studying World War I, remember the Treaty of Versailles, because the Treaty of Versailles is going to wind up being the major cause of World War II. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles because he believed that the Treaty of Versailles was inherently unfair, that it made Germany liable for far too much damage, that it was harsh, and he was determined to restore the fortunes of the German people and the German nation, and that's what he built his whole campaign on. That's why the people supported him so much. So he goes out of his way to violate that by building up their army, sending troops into the Rhineland. Those two acts alone are a direct violation of the Treaty of Versailles. And he doesn't care. He absolutely doesn't care. He wanted to make sure that he sent a message to the rest of the world that Germany was back. Because in his mind, again, you're inferior to Germans or Aryans. And he wants all Germans to have the power in Eastern Europe and establish this Third Reich, or 1,000-year reign. He's determined to do it. And despite some of the lame efforts of some other European countries like France and Great Britain, as we discussed in class on September 1st, 1939, Germany will invade Poland without even declaring a war. And this is the official start, really, of World War II. I think France and Britain are going to declare war 2 days later, but the war really starts on September 1st, when Hitler decides that he's going to invade Poland. And here we go. Britain, of course, and France do declare war on September 3rd, 1939. And then, like a bunch of teenagers, Italy declares war on France and Britain because, hey, they're messing with Italy's little friend. So they declare war on France and Britain on June 10th, 1940, and now we have ourselves World War II. Now, we're going to watch in the next video that I do, there are actual pictures and even some footage. I'm going to try and insert some footage of an actual blitzkrieg. Now, we may actually do that in class because you need to see what the people were experiencing as those bombs were coming into neighborhood after neighborhood. If you've ever seen the Narnia movie, the very first one, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I do believe that very first movie is actually set in the middle of a blitzkrieg. And you notice when the kids are sent to the countryside um, to live with the professor, I believe, one of the reasons why that happens is because the city of London is being bombed to death. Hitler thought that the blitzkrieg would crush um, Britain, that it would break their spirit. We're going to talk about why that did not happen in the other video. But the bottom line is that the blitzkrieg, it was an absolute raining of bombs and soldiers. Soldiers would actually parachute out of the planes after the bombs were dropped. It was just an absolute nightmare. These were surprise attacks, people not expecting attacks. So many regions and territories were taken by surprise that they could not form any kind of defense against Germany. So Germany looked like a machine. And as the slide points out, Germany achieved most of its victories in World War II with that blitzkrieg tactic. It worked for a charm, or like a charm, for a little bit. And here are some of the bombers. To the left, I'll just move my cursor here, right here. It's an old photo. But you get the idea. Imagine seeing the sky filled with thousands of those just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb. And of course we have here the tanks. Then there's the phony war. Now Britain sent troops to wait with the French down behind the Maginot Line. And reporters called this quiet time of a lack of action a phony war, which is kind of sad. The reporters are hyped. They want some action. Who wants a world war? But apparently the reporters were a little bored. This is the Maginot Line. This is where the soldiers waited. Isn't that nifty that they still have that footage there? And then, of course, right here, this is the actual line itself. This is where the British and French troops are going to wait for Germany. Now, you notice here is France. Here. Germany wants to take over France altogether. Remember, these two still don't like each other because of the Franco-Prussian War. Some things never change. They just can't quite get over the baggage left from that conflict in the 19th century. Germany wants to pay France back because they know that France was behind the Treaty of Versailles. Don't forget that. Oh, and here is some footage. Here, this is a still picture. These right here, of course, are the bombers. But right here, these are the actual soldiers wearing parachutes. May 10th, 1940. Now, they're here, in this case, they're being sent to Holland. Poor little Holland, who doesn't really, they're not a big military country at all. They have no defense against Hitler at this point. So the Axis powers, and remember, the Axis powers consist of Germany, Italy, and Japan. The Blitzkrieg is going to take Norway and Denmark with it. They're going to overrun the Netherlands and Belgium. And then Germany, along with Italy, is going to force France to surrender. So in the beginning, it looks like Hitler is going to have his way. This map right here shows you what is taking place between 1939 and 1942. Right here, this, of course, is where Germany invades Poland. Then we have some other allies who are going to come along. This is before, or actually this is after the Battle of Stalingrad. Germany, of course, like an idiot, is going to invade Russia, or I should say the Soviet Union, and that's going to create a whole mess for them. Look at all of this activity. Look at what the Axis powers are doing right here and here and here. Then this little area right here, these are the other members of the Axis who are going to join them later. Okay? Now, so far so good here and here, obviously, because this is the Allied powers, Great Britain, France, and then later the Soviet Union. France will fall, and there is Hitler with his cronies standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yuck. I can't stand and look at his face. Forgive me, guys. But, of course, every genius makes a mistake every once in a while. Germany made the mistake of invading France in 1940. And the Allied forces decide that they're going to retreat, and they make it to Dunkirk. And they are literally trapped between the Nazis who are advancing and the English Channel. It's a body of water. What do you do? The British sent every boat that they could get across the English Channel to pick up the troops off the beaches of Dunkirk. And it is referred to as the miracle at Dunkirk. Why is it called a miracle? It's called a miracle because those retreating allies had lost hope. I mean, they were like, we're dead. But when the British got them out and rescued them, 338,000 men rescued. Can you imagine how the war would have been different if Germany was able to wipe out those 338,000 men? It literally saved an entire fighting force. And Hitler's going to pay for it later. On June 22nd, 1940, however, France is going to sign an armistice or a peace agreement with Germany in occupied France. And it's a ceasefire. And it basically divides France into two zones. And one was under German military occupation and the other was under French control. By 1942, Germans are going to occupy all of France just like they wanted. Now, June 22nd, 1940 is where we're going to pick up. And these are just some questions that you should consider after watching this slide. What was the immediate cause of World War II? Secondly, describe the German concept of the Blitzkrieg. Third, where were the early Axis triumphs and what was the phony war? Fourthly, what was the miracle at Dunkirk? Why was it significant? And then this question, June 22nd, 1940, why was this date significant? Okay? So we will pick up the next time with the rest of the story because we still have to talk about the end of Germany, the end of World War II in Europe, and of course, the end of the Japanese Empire and the post-Pearl War or Pearl Harbor activity, and finally the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that will ultimately end World War II. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. Take care.